For years, the story of Japanese infielders failing to sustain elite defensive performance in Major League Baseball was written in muscle tissue and radar guns. They just aren't strong enough, scouts would sigh. Their throws lack the necessary velocity and accuracy to beat the speed of the game at shortstop.
This fundamental physical disparity was accepted as gospel, perpetuated even by returning veterans who insisted the American body was simply built differently. Yet one man, Muneori Kawasaki, proved that this universal belief was not just wrong, but a massive psychological barrier masking a deeper, more profound truth about athletic adaptation itself. If you're ready to dismantle baseball's oldest defensive myths and understand the truly revolutionary approach that allowed Kawasaki to conquer the most challenging position in the game, welcome to 603 Snap News, where we dive deep into the kind of disruptive thinking that changes how we view sports excellence.
The historical evidence seemed damning. Matsui Kazuo, a defensive titan in the NPB, stacking up 7 consecutive Golden Gloves at shortstop, arrived in the majors only to be immediately relegated to second base, his range and arm deemed insufficient for the MLB 9-hole crucible. The consensus among NPB veterans returning home was defeatist. "It's just different over there," one unnamed veteran reportedly summarized. "The speed of the runner, the way the ball explodes off the bat."
Our system focuses on precision, but Major League play demands brute force athleticism we simply can't match. This was the fixed concept, the concrete wall Kawasaki ran into, and initially he bought into it completely. He thought, their shoulders are stronger, their bodies are fundamentally different, I'm restricted by genetics.
But here is where the story pivots sharply away from the conventional narrative of physical limitation toward a breathtakingly deep exploration of motor learning and cognitive flexibility. Kawasaki realized he was suffering from a great Japanese misconception. The difference wasn't brute strength, but the deeply ingrained subconscious motor patterns learned from childhood.
"I believed the lie," Kawasaki reflected later. "But I learned the truth is, we Japanese players harbor a fundamental misunderstanding about how our bodies are designed to move laterally and vertically with speed. The physical strength disparity is minimal. The disparity in body usage, the efficiency of motion, is what creates the gap." This discovery, that the flaw was in the software, not the hardware, demanded nothing less than the complete systemic reboot of his baseball brain.
It was a painful, agonizing process, measured in single-digit percentages. He didn't succeed overnight, and this is the crucial element missed by those who saw him only as a comical relief player. He described the initial breakthrough as maddeningly slow. "I told myself I needed to change. After 1 year, I could manage the impossible play, the play that requires the American way of using the hips and core, maybe twice out of 100 attempts."
Another year passed, and that became 3 times out of 50. This slow burn, this gradual erosion of decades of muscle memory, illustrates the true genius of his effort. He was fighting a cognitive war against his own muscle memory, a war that ultimately lasted 5 long years, until, as he eloquently put it, my brain finally started to boil. All the old fixed concepts shattered, and the reconstruction of the new defensive operating system finally began.
This physiological revolution was only half the equation, and this is where the plot twist arrives. Kawasaki understood that defensive mastery at shortstop requires communication that is immediate, instinctual, and free of delay, a seamless extension of thought into action between the second baseman and the third baseman, often in pressurized, multilingual clubhouses. While many Japanese players relied heavily on interpreters, creating a cognitive barrier and a microsecond delay in critical communication, Kawasaki aggressively rejected this insulation. He dove headfirst into the culture, using broken English and exaggerated gestures to communicate. But his truly revolutionary move was recognizing the dominance of Central and South American players in the MLB infield landscape. He didn't just learn English, he learned Spanish to bridge the gap.
According to the legendary MLB analyst Rick Morales, we all thought he was just eccentric. We didn't understand the depth of his strategy. He wasn't just learning the language,
He was learning the rhythm of the infield. When he started barking orders in rapid-fire Spanish, "Yo, confía en mí," to the Dominican and Venezuelan guys, the infield defensive metrics in their shared games spiked by nearly 15%.
It was a communication hack, a cultural bypass that solidified his position faster than any physical improvement could have. Now, anticipate the counter-argument. Many critics dismissed him as merely a novelty act, a charming bench warmer, establishing a Sugiyuchi-style position based on charisma rather than talent. They loved the "I'm Japanese" soundbites and the endless energy, but doubted the substance. But the specific defensive metrics refute this sentiment entirely.
When you look at the raw data, particularly defensive runs saved, a statistical measure designed to quantify a player's entire defensive contribution, every other Japanese infielder arriving in MLB saw their DRS plummet dramatically upon contact with the American game. Kawasaki, however, was the anomaly. His DRS rarely dipped below zero throughout his tenure at shortstop, maintaining a positive defensive value at the most demanding position in baseball, a feat matched only by a small elite fraction of global shortstops. He wasn't just a mascot, he was a silent defensive machine, demonstrating world-class reliability honed through 5 years of internal warfare and radical cross-cultural immersion. That unique combination of intellectual curiosity, willingness to dismantle his own fixed beliefs, and radical communicative effort is why, truly, there may never be another Japanese player quite like him in terms of memory and impact. He proved that the hardest adaptation isn't physical, it's cognitive and cultural, leading to the kind of fame where locals joked that if aliens landed on Earth, Kawasaki should be the one to represent humanity because of his sheer, indomitable communication power. He mastered not only the physical game, but the entire geopolitical and psychological ecosystem of the clubhouse, making him a true legend of the game. If this deep dive into the psychology of adaptation resonated with you, show your appreciation by hitting that like button, sharing this commentary with fellow baseball fanatics, and subscribing to 603 Snap News for more analyses that go far beyond the box score. And tell me in the comments below, which current Japanese player do you think could benefit most from adopting Kawasaki's radical, brain-boiling approach to cross-cultural adaptation?